Rangers supporters gather round because the next stretch of the season is shaping up to be one of those moments where everything happening behind closed doors could end up defining the team's path for the months ahead. There is a real sense that the atmosphere around the club is shifting, not only because of the performances on the pitch, but because of the decisions being made in the corridors of power. With the transfer window creeping ever closer, the pressure is stacking up for Danny Rowe as he steps into a role that now demands more authority, more clarity, and far more influence than anyone originally expected. What has unfolded at the boardroom level has opened the door for the manager to play a deeper part in shaping the squad, almost as if circumstance has pushed him forward faster than planned. The recent departures at the top of the organization have stunned many supporters, not because change was unexpected, but because of how wide-reaching and immediate the restructuring has become. With the chief executive and the sporting director both removed from their roles, the foundations of the club have been shaken, creating a vacuum that someone has to step into. That someone, for now, is Rowe, who suddenly finds himself carrying responsibilities that normally would be shared across a full team of decision-makers. Add to that the dissatisfaction bubbling among fans due to the inconsistent form, and the result is a manager facing a defining period far earlier in his tenure than anyone predicted. Rangers cannot afford to drift any further from the top of the table, and Rowe knows fine well that his approach to the coming window could shape everything that follows. The draw against Dundee United was a blow, especially because it felt like an afternoon when Rangers were meant to reassert themselves. Instead, the team slipped into fourth place and remain well off the leaders, a position that simply cannot be allowed to linger. Falling behind in the title race this early brings a different kind of pressure, the sort that forces tough decisions, uncomfortable evaluations, and bold choices. There is no luxury of easing into the window. This one demands urgency, decisiveness, and a manager ready to take control of the direction of the squad. Observers across the Scottish game have been quick to point out that the situation will require far more than a routine mid-season adjustment. The next window is likely to be one in which Rangers must add quality rather than merely depth. Rowe's approach so far has impressed many with his calm presence and willingness to take responsibility, standing out even during difficult spells. His ability to keep the players engaged has given supporters a bit of hope, but even the most loyal followers recognize that the squad needs more than belief. It needs genuine improvement, a spark of quality in key areas, and a level of authority that allows the manager to shape the squad in his own vision. As things stand, the reshuffle behind the scenes means Rowe will have a heavier hand in identifying and approving new additions. Without a sporting director in place and with the chief executive role still vacant, the manager is now positioned at the center of the January plans. Whether that was the club's intention or not, that reality carries its own risks, but it also hands Rowe an opportunity to bring in players who match his ideals, his style, and his expectations. The type of individuals he chooses may tell supporters everything they need to know about the direction he wants the club to move in. Personality, resilience, the hunger to fight for the badge, and the tactical traits he values will be key indicators of what the next version of Rangers might look like. Yet the situation remains complicated. The board is taking its time in appointing new leaders, determined to avoid rushing into decisions that could set the club back further. While that caution makes sense on paper, it also leaves the manager standing somewhat alone as he prepares for a crucial window with limited structural support. It means the upcoming month will require a steady hand as well as the awareness that any signing must count. There is no room for gambles. There is no space for passengers. If outgoings are required to free up wage space or generate funds, then tough decisions may need to be made, even involving players who are expected to play bigger roles this season. Meanwhile, supporters have grown increasingly vocal about the performances on the pitch, especially after the defensive issues that cost the team yet again. The match against Dundee United was a painful reminder that Rangers still lack the solidity needed to compete at the level required. The manner in which the second goal was conceded was worrying, not because the strike itself was unstoppable, but because the build-up was full of avoidable errors. It came from a corner that should have been cleared decisively, but instead, Rangers hesitated, invited pressure, and allowed the opposition to keep the move alive. By the time the ball hit the back of the net, disbelief had spread through the squad and the supporters alike. Watching the breakdown of the moment back, it was clear that several players switched off at the worst possible time. The challenges were half-hearted, the positioning was loose, and the overall urgency simply was not there. Even though there were individuals who showed flashes of composure and determination throughout the match, the backline on the whole looked fragile. Every second ball seemed to fall to the opposition. Every run behind caused chaos, and every lapse in concentration carried a heavy price. These patterns are no longer isolated incidents. They are symptoms of deeper problems that Rowe must address quickly. The criticism that followed was sharp, but it was also fair. When a team with Rangers' ambitions concedes in such avoidable fashion, the questions are bound to be pointed. The scrutiny from former players and analysts was unforgiving as they highlighted the hesitancy in the challenges, the failure to step up as a unit, and the lack of authority when it mattered most. Dundee United did not rely on a moment of brilliance to score. They relied on determination, on beating Rangers to every touch, on taking advantage of a defense that looked flat-footed and disconnected. That is the kind of weakness that cannot be ignored, especially for a team hoping to stay in the hunt at the top of the league. With the next fixture approaching rapidly, Rowe faces enormous decisions. He knows that sticking with the same defensive setup could be risky. The last two league matches have ended in draws, and the gap at the top of the table has widened at the worst possible time. Momentum is slipping away, and the only way to restore belief is by tightening up at the back and giving the forwards a platform they can build upon. That might require dropping senior players who have not been performing. It might require turning to younger options who bring energy and urgency, even if they lack experience. What is clear is that changes need to come, and they need to come quickly. As the week rolled on, the mood around the training ground carried a mix of urgency and reflection. The players looked aware of the weight sitting on their shoulders, and Rowe himself seemed determined to shift the energy back in the right direction. Even in the quieter moments, you could sense the focus tightening. The sessions were sharper, instructions were firmer, and the coaching staff pushed every detail with a level of intensity that matched the moment. This was not a squad hiding from its problems. It was one being forced to confront them head-on, knowing that the next match could define the tone of their season. The supporters want reaction, conviction, and a team willing to fight for every blade of grass, and Rowe is trying to pull that out of them day by day. Inside the dressing room, the conversations have reportedly grown more honest. The players understand that the lack of defensive stability is costing them dearly, and the frustrations from the Dundee United match still linger. Moments like that tend to stick with a squad. They replay in the mind over and over, from the initial corner to the missed clearance to the slow reaction. Those images become reminders of what needs to change, and the coaching staff have used them as teaching points throughout the week. The message has been clear. Rangers cannot keep dropping points because of preventable errors. If they want to stay alive in the title race, the basics must improve, and the commitment to defending as a unit has to sharpen immediately. Rowe, despite the pressure, has maintained a calm presence. His approach has been one of balance, combining accountability with belief. He has not shied away from calling out what needs correcting, but he has also been careful to reinforce the trust he has in the squad. Players respond differently when they feel supported rather than isolated, and Rowe seems to understand that perfectly. His voice has been steady. His message has remained consistent. The mistakes from the last match cannot be repeated, but the group has the ability to respond. Now it is about proving it on the pitch, not through promises or explanations, but through 90 minutes of fire, focus, and hunger. Still, the reality is that the next match will bring its own challenges. The defensive uncertainty has created nerves among the supporters, and the opposition will no doubt look to exploit those spaces that appeared in recent weeks. That knowledge forces the players to tighten up mentally. They cannot afford lapses of concentration or slow reactions. Every clearance must be decisive. Every challenge must carry conviction, and every transition has to be tracked with the awareness that any hesitation could cost them dearly. Rowe knows that a single positive performance could shift the mood dramatically, and he will be expecting leaders within the squad to step forward and drag the group through the difficult moments. The rebuilding process is not just about transfers or tactical adjustments. It is about restoring belief in the identity of the team. Rangers have built their strongest eras on resilience, intensity, and a refusal to crumble under pressure. Those qualities need to resurface, especially with the gap at the top widening. 9 points may sound manageable with so much of the season still ahead, but in this league, every match carries weight. Each dropped point feels heavier because the teams above will not sit still. To climb back into contention, Rangers must string together performances that show not just improvement, but conviction. They need the kind of run that brings momentum, confidence, and stability, especially in the defensive third. That is why the January window looms so large. Rowe may be working without a sporting director and without a chief executive in place, but the need for reinforcements is clear. The current squad has talent, but it lacks balance in key areas. Some players have shown flashes of quality, while others have struggled to deliver the consistency required. At this level, decisions about who stays and who goes will need to be made with a level of ruthlessness that suits the ambitions of a club like Rangers. Potential outgoings like Ned Barami must be evaluated not on sentiment, but on the needs of the squad as a whole. If space has to be created, then sacrifices will have to be considered. Rowe's growing influence on recruitment will be one of the most fascinating developments of the season. For the first time in years, the manager may be the driving force behind the profile of players coming in. That means the squad could begin to reflect his footballing values more clearly. Supporters will be watching closely to see what types of personalities he prioritizes. Will he target leaders who can raise the intensity in difficult moments? Will he seek technicians who fit his tactical rhythm? Or will he push for players whose resilience and mentality match the standards the club is trying to restore? Those choices will shape not only the next few months, but possibly the next few seasons. But the present cannot be ignored while eyes turn to the future. The shortcomings from the Dundee United match were not limited to defensive actions alone. The midfield lacked sharpness in key moments, and the attacking players found themselves chasing the match instead of controlling it. When a team loses its defensive certainty, it affects every other department. Forwards become hesitant because they know the margin for error behind them is slim. Midfielders take fewer risks. The entire rhythm of the team changes. Rangers cannot allow that cycle to continue. Rowe understands that restoring defensive confidence will have a ripple effect across the pitch, allowing the players to attack with purpose instead of anxiety. The supporters, as always, have stayed passionate. Their expectations come from a place of deep loyalty, but they do not hide their disappointment when standards slip. After the last match, their frustration was clear. Many felt the team switched off at vital moments, and those feelings are understandable, yet those same supporters will be the first to roar their team back into life if they see the commitment, intensity, and fight they want from their players. Ibrox has lifted Rangers through far tougher stretches than this, and Rowe will hope the stadium becomes a fortress again in the matches ahead. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Whispers have been swirling Rune Govan these last few days. The kind of low-rumbling blether ye hear in pubs afore a pint's even settled. Word is, David Beckham himself, the global icon with the neat hair and the sharp suits, has set his sights on buying Rangers. Nothing's confirmed. Nabody's gone on record, but the chatter just winna stop. And folk are wondering if there's more tie it than idle talk. Some say Beckham's been spotted slipped quietly through Glasgow, keeping his head down, but no quite managing to dodge the watchful eyes of fans who ken a star even under a hoodie. Others claim representatives linked tie his business group he been sniffing about the club's financial structure, asking questions that usually mean a serious bids in the Mackin. It's all second-horn whispers, aye, but the city's buzzing like a beehive, prodded with a stick. Supporters are torn between disbelief and wild excitement. The idea of Beckham, a figure who's long stood atop the glamorous end of football culture, stepping into the raw, fire-soaked cauldron of Ibrox, has folk imagining a future packed with star sign-ins, global eyes, and perhaps a touch of Hollywood sheen. Yet there's a wee undercurrent of caution too, that the sense that the club's traditions, its heft, its grounded identity must be held tight, even if a superstar walks through the blue room. Rumour merchants insist it's no just a vanity project, but a strategic move for Beckham, who's been building a portfolio across the football world. They say he's looking to plant a flag in a storied European institution, and few have a history as rich and thunderous as Rangers, but until someone steps forward with something solid, it remains what it is, a tantalizing murmur drifting through the streets, setting tongues wagging and imaginations running. For new Glasgow watches, listens and wonders if a legend of the English game might soon call Ibrox his newest kingdom. The rumour's got legs right enough, but time will tell if it's sprinting or merely wandering about without direction. One thing's certain, folk will need stop talking about it anytime soon. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned